difference makers, a common experience when working with people is helping them with the struggle of life loss. Look at Samuel chapter 12, verse 20. Then David got up from the ground, washed himself, put on lotions, and changed his clothes. After his son died, King David does what? He gets off the ground and he puts himself back together again. Have you ever noticed that grief and loss have a way of removing that desire to take care of yourself? You think in your mind, and it's understandable, who cares what I wear or if I shower or brush my teeth today? Eating can even feel completely immaterial. But here's the tough one. Sleep, of course, becomes a challenge, and exercise sounds ridiculous. Sorrow has a way of overwhelming us to the point that we don't care of ourselves. Let me say this to you. You see what that does? That puts you in a place where you're just kind of compounding the effect. It's a battle to get back on your feet. See, King David gives us this concrete example of how we can gradually begin to respond to life again. First is by accepting what he couldn't change. But second, he had faith that knew that this wasn't the end of the story, that each day he was a day closer to being reunited with his son. He chose to live in the tension. We're talking about a tension here of both grieving and living. And I want you to get that today. That's what we're talking about. The tension between grieving and living. He decided to let grief happen in his emotions. He decided that. So he cried when he needed to cry. But also this, and this is what we're after today, he also chose to live by taking care of his life physically. The fourth step to surrender is
refocus on God through worship. You need to know God will help us to worship, even as difficult as it might feel and believed to even be possible. In 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 20, then he, David, went to the tabernacle and he worshiped the Lord. David said in Psalms 73, verses 16 through 17, tried to understand all this, but it was too hard for me to see until I went to the temple of God. David knew that worship can expand our spiritual insight, understanding, and help us receive comfort from God. So he got off the ground and he headed straight to God's house. Then the temptation in our grief is to turn away or run away from God because we feel angry and we figure in some way God is responsible to let it happen. In the short term, these emotions are totally understandable, but for long term, it will be damaging to your life health. At these times is when we have to know how to surrender these feelings and the blaming to God and figure out how to worship again.
God will never abandon you in your anger, grief, and doubts. But you need to know these emotions tend to cloud your heart and spirit from what you need. You need to receive the spiritual insight and comfort that God longs to give you. If you don't surrender your heart back to worship, it will be hard for you to recognize where God is working to bring healing to your life. David went to God's house to worship. Do you think he felt like it? No way. But it was a place of worship, of not just about the building. It's a healing place of quietness, tranquility, and stillness that will help you reconnect with God. They'll help you sort out your feelings and reconnect yourself back to God.